What if one of the oldest, most fundamental processes of nature held the key to unlocking profound health benefits? And not through adding something, but actually by taking something away. It's a pretty counterintuitive idea for a lot of us, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It kind of flips a lot of our modern assumptions about health and wellness right on their head.
Yeah. So today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the fascinating world of fasting. We'll be guided by the extensive insights of a really pioneering figure in natural hygienics, Herbert M. Shelton.
Right.
Our mission today is to try and pull out the most important nuggets from his really comprehensive work, looking at how fasting can be, an incredibly powerful tool for well-being.
And our source for this deep dive, is the audiobook Fasting Can Save Your Life by Herbert M. Shelton. It's presented by Stargate Book, and it's digitally narrated using the voice of Edward Herman, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And look, Shelton isn't just some theorist, right? He's considered a leading authority. Over 50 years, he personally assisted, get this, around 100,000 fasters.
Wow, 100,000.
Yeah. So his work gives us this really foundational, deeply experienced understanding of the practice.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the start then. When we talk about fasting, it's so much more than simply, choosing not to eat for a bit, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Shelton really elevates it. He clarifies it as, a science and an art, affecting not just our physical well-being, but our psychological and emotional sides, too. What exactly does he mean by that?
Well, he's really pinpointing that fasting isn't just about food deprivation, not at all. It's about a highly controlled, precise physiological process.
Right.
Shelton's definition is really key here. It's total abstinence from all food for a defined period of time. The word fasten itself, meaning like firm or fixed, implies these controlled, deliberate conditions. And that's what truly differentiates it from, say, religious partial fasting like Lent, where people might abstain from certain foods but often end up just substituting them, maybe with richer alternatives. Sometimes they even gain weight.
Right. We've heard of that. And this brings us to a really crucial distinction, one that seems to have caused a lot of harm and misunderstanding. The difference between fasting and actual starvation, equating the two seems like a massive disservice.
It's completely wrong and, profoundly damaging as a misconception.
Yeah.
Shelton is very, very clear about this. He explains there are two distinct stages. Fasting is the first stage. This is where the body is intelligently consuming its own stored reserves in its tissues.
Okay.
And this can continue, he says, for as long as the body can maintain itself. Starvation, on the other hand, only begins when that abstinence is prolonged beyond the limit of those reserves.
I see.
That's when it becomes what he calls a deadly process. It's derived from the Anglo-Saxon steerfan, which means to die from lack of food or even freezing. But the critical point is, you cannot die of starvation if you're actually in good health when you start a fast.
Okay, that's a really important clarification. So when we hear popular terms like water fasts or juice fasting, based on Shelton's definition of total abstinence, those are really misnomers then.
Precisely. Yeah, those are what Shelton would call loose terminology. They're technically diets where, only water or maybe fruit or plant extracts are consumed. They might offer some benefits, sure, but they are not total abstinence from food in the way he defines true fasting. The body's internal processes are just different when it's still getting some kind of caloric or nutritional input.
Makes sense. It's truly fascinating, though, to see how ingrained this practice seems to be in nature itself. Animals seem to instinctively get fasting as just a fundamental process, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Shelton observes that fasting is an extremely important existential factor across the whole animal kingdom. I mean, think about it. Sick or injured animals.
Yeah.
They instinctively seek refuge, they rest, and they fast.
Yeah.
They don't look for medicine or surgery. We see it during hibernation, right? Like bears giving birth and even lactating while they're fasting. Or there's even summer hibernation in some tropical countries. Animals fast during mating, during lactation periods, birds while hatching eggs. He even mentioned some spiders abstaining for 6 months after birth.
6 months?
Yeah. And even wild creatures, if you bring them into captivity, they often fast for days before adapting to the new environment.
Interesting.
And of course, animals endure forced fasts during droughts or heavy snowfall, severe cold. He mentions cows in the Brazilian pampas or Syrian hammer dogs who just survive leanly for really long periods.
And humans aren't so different, historically speaking, are we? This isn't some new health fad.
Yeah, not at all.
Fasting has been practiced for centuries all over the globe for religious reasons, self-discipline, political protest, and importantly for our discussion, for healing.
Right. It's mentioned in the Bible, in Homer's writings. It was used in ancient Egyptian and Greek temples. Arab physicians in the Middle Ages recommended it. Even Neapolitan doctors, maybe only 150 years ago, regularly use 40-day fasts for patients with fevers.
40 days. And that's the interesting part, isn't it? The shift seems quite recent in human history, this idea that we must constantly eat to maintain strength.
Exactly. Dr. Felix Oswald, a Dutch physician, Shelton quotes, keenly observed this. He noted that pain, fever, gastric issues, even mental disorders, they naturally reduce appetite.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Oswald argued that only the inexperienced and unwise would try to thwart nature's really clear signal in these cases.
Okay, so if nature has this kind of built-in wisdom, how does the human body actually manage all this? What are the ingenious mechanisms Shelton identifies at play during a fast? I mean, it just seems impossible to most of us.
Well, it all comes down to what Shelton describes as nature's delicate automatic balance. It's quite an elegant system. Basically, to excel on one side, nature has to economize on another.
Okay.
He uses an analogy like a plumbing system. If you turn on your kitchen faucet full blast, it reduces the water flow to your bathtub.
Right, yeah.
Similarly, during a fast, the immense amount of energy usually consumed by the digestive system gets diverted. It's rerouted to other crucial processes. It allows for other work, like healing and elimination, to take precedence.
That makes profound sense. It's like the body gets a chance to truly rest, internally from its most demanding daily job.
Precisely. Fasting provides total physiological rest for the digestive system, the glandular system, circulatory, respiratory, even the nervous system. Organs like the mouth and stomach glands, the entire digestive tract, liver, pancreas, heart, arteries, they're all lightened of their usual workload. Breathing actually slows down. The nervous system works less intensely.
Wow.
Shelton even theorizes that the metabolism and inactivity during a fast kind of resemble a hibernating animal, or maybe even the prenatal phase. Now, you're not completely inactive, obviously, but getting closer to this state of internal stillness, he says, accelerates progress.
And this deep rest then leads directly to enhanced elimination. Shelton calls it the only safe therapeutic evacuator for man. That's a huge claim. He says it significantly increases the expulsion of waste and poisons from blood and tissues.
It is a huge claim, and it's absolutely a cornerstone of his philosophy. When food is withheld, the body's eliminatory organs, your kidneys, lungs, bowels, skin, sequeur, they naturally ramp up their activity.
Okay.
Retained wastes get expelled, purifying the system. This involves a process he calls autolysis, which is basically the body's brilliant self-digestion.
Self-digestion.
Yeah, it consumes its own stored, less essential tissues, almost like an internal recycling system. It uses this to fuel itself and cleanse itself simultaneously. As Dr. Oswald put it, nature uses its downtime for a general cleansing.
Now, there's often a debate, right, whether this increased excretion is just sort of secondary to the body searching for nutrients. But Shelton questions this. He argues the reduced energy needed for digestion is specifically redirected to elimination and healing. Is there evidence for that?
He argues there is. Just resting more, or even just reducing food intake significantly, also increases elimination, though maybe not to the same comprehensive level as a complete fast.
Right.
The body is remarkably efficient, and it survives without food by tapping into its, stockpiles of nutrient materials. These are stored as fat, obviously, but also bone marrow, glycogen, muscle extracts, milk solids, minerals, vitamins.
It's actually incredible to think that a healthy body has enough supply for days, weeks, even 2 or 3 months. Our inner larder contains sufficient nourishment, as Shelton puts it. That's amazing.
It is, and these reserves are made available through that autolysis process carried out by enzymes.
Right.
Like glycogen gets converted back to sugar for energy.
And what's really crucial here, maybe one of the most surprising things, you mentioned deficiency diseases, beriberi, pellagra, rickets, scurvy. They do not occur during prolonged fasts.
Correct. Yeah. According to Shelton's extensive experience, they don't. And this powerfully demonstrates that the body's inherent reserves are generally well-balanced and comprehensive. They're capable of sustaining life without external food for really significant periods.
That truly flips conventional wisdom on its head. I mean, most of us are taught we need constant input to avoid deficiencies. What does this specific point tell us about the body's inherent wisdom and capacity that we maybe overlook?
What really underscores Shelton's core argument?
Yeah.
The body isn't inherently deficient most of the time. It's often just overwhelmed by constant intake. The reserves are there.
Right.
Fasting allows them to be properly accessed and utilized. It shows the body's incredible ability to self-regulate and nourish itself from within. And this also flies right in the face of another common belief, that a weak person needs to be constantly fed.
Yeah.
Shelton argues that many individuals actually gain strength during a fast, especially those who start out weak, because their weakness, he says, is often due to intoxication, not an actual lack of food energy.
That's a really counterintuitive thought for someone who feels weak. It's hard to grasp. Shelton recounts that anecdote about the actor Joseph Jefferson, who was wrongly advised to be fed during pneumonia, which apparently harmed him.
Yes.
And historically, he points to some fascinating examples. Tanner running races while fasting, Gilman Lowe and McFadden setting weightlifting records, even accountants finding their minds sharper.
Exactly. And we even see this echoed in extreme survival stories. Remember Ralph Flores and Helen Clavin? Survived 49 days after a plane crash in BC.
Oh, yeah, I remember that story.
You lost weight? Sure, but were found in surprisingly good condition. Shelton emphasizes that the brain becomes wonderfully efficient. One faces one's duties with vigor and energy and joy during a fast. It really highlights the body's incredible adaptive capacity, not just to survive, but maybe even thrive in some ways under these conditions.
Wow. Okay, now let's talk about hunger itself, because Shelton makes a huge distinction here. He says much of what people call hunger is actually a false appetite. What does he mean?
Yeah, this is key. He describes this false appetite as maybe a mild irritation, stomach bites, weakness, sometimes emotional disturbances, often just triggered by habit, like it's noon, I must be hungry, or even psychological misery, what he dramatically calls food revenge.
Food revenge. Huh. So what is real hunger then, according to him?
Real hunger, Shelton says, is a normal, actually pleasurable sensation, felt in the mouth, nose, and throat. It's accompanied by increased salivation. And it's selective, not indiscriminate like cravings. It's satisfied with simple dishes. He even states that those who are always hungry actually present pathological symptoms, which is quite a statement.
Yeah.
He argues most people, because of modern civilization's 3 meals a day program plus snacks, they don't actually know real hunger at all.
It's like the body's profound wisdom again, isn't it? In acute illness, like a fever, hunger just disappears because energy is naturally diverted to healing, not digestion.
Exactly. It's a literal closed for repair signal from the body.
Right. Shelton even shares a personal story from when he was a teenager. He instinctively fasted during a mild fever and just recovered quickly, no medicine needed. And he's really critical of that common practice of forcing sick children to eat.
Oh, very critical. He sees it as going directly against the body's innate intelligence. He believes it prolongs suffering and actually hinders recovery.
Okay, so if that's the underlying science, what are the big transformative effects of fasting that Shelton highlights? Let's start with maybe the most obvious one for many people, weight reduction.
Right. For Shelton, fasting is, well, unequivocally the best, fastest, and safest way to lose weight. And crucially, he says, to maintain it long term. How? By fundamentally resetting and rejecting bad eating habits.
Okay.
He contrasts it really sharply with diets, which he sees as often disappointingly slow. And he argues they rarely succeed long term because of self-control issues, and people rapidly regain weight once the diet stops.
And the numbers he cites are pretty impressive, aren't they? An average loss of around a pound a day for long-term fasting, sometimes even up to 2 or 3 pounds a day initially for people with significant reserves.
Yeah, the initial water weight loss can be quite dramatic. Then it settles. And women Shelton supervised reported experiences like the pleasure of watching my pounds fade away. Some called fasting a pleasure, even the best experience of my life.
Wow, that's not what you usually associate with not eating.
No. And scientific experiments, like those by Leon Bloom at Piedmont Hospital or Garfield Duncan at the University of Pennsylvania, they actually confirmed Shelton's observations. They found fasters were generally not hungry. They noted a surprising absence of appetite and wonderful tolerance.
And beyond just the pounds, he suggests the benefits go much further, demonstrating that reducing food intake can lead to better overall health, like freer breath, easier movement, no fatigue.
Exactly. No stomach fullness or heaviness, indigestion ceasing, lower blood pressure. It really sounds like a total systemic overhaul.
Yeah, it does.
And it is. Fasting, for Shelton, can indeed bring about a real rebirth, a revitalization of the organism. He says this happens right down at the cellular level, through purification, through the removal of accumulated foreign substances, what he calls metaplasmic materials.
Metaplasmic materials?
Yeah, it's essentially accumulated waste or sludge within the cells that hinders their function. By removing them, he argues, cells become rejuvenated, more efficient. And some of these accumulated materials, he notes, can be highly toxic, often settled in fat and connective tissue cells.
And the observed improvements he details are, well, pretty dramatic. Shelton points to improved cardiac conditions and this truly astonishing claim, occasional recovery of hearing in deaf ears. He cites a 70-year-old Mr. A.B. regaining hearing after 36 days.
Yeah, that's one of the more extraordinary claims. Definitely needs context and verification, but it's in his writings. He also reports improved eyesight, not curing blindness, but maybe eliminating the need for glasses, increased acuity of taste and smell, recovery of sensitivity, increased vigor and strength, improved mental faculties, prostate reduction, even sexual rejuvenation.
Wow. Is there any scientific basis he points to for these rejuvenation claims?
Well, he alludes to work like Dr. Alexis Carrel's famous chicken heart experiments from the early 20th century. Carrel kept chicken heart cells alive and seemingly immortal for decades, far beyond their natural lifespan,
Oh.
simply by consistently cleaning their environment and providing nutrients. This suggested to some, including Shelton, that cells might not inherently age in the way we think, but rather succumb to accumulated metabolic waste.
Interesting.
He also cites Professor C.M. Child's research on insects, like planarian worms. Child showed that periodic fasting could actually reverse senescence biological aging and significantly prolong life. Some insects lived, like, 3 years instead of their usual 3 to 4 weeks.
3 years versus weeks. That's incredible.
Yeah. And Anton J. Carlson, a respected physiology professor, even suggested potential for human rejuvenation based on this kind of work.
So the core idea here is that aging isn't just about time passing. It's significantly influenced by accumulated damage and toxins within the body.
That's the theory, yes.
And fasting periodically helps rid the body of these toxic substances, provides rest, and potentially slows down aging.
Precisely. It's about optimizing the body's internal environment, giving it a chance to clean house, essentially.
Okay, now here's a real paradox that might surprise people. Fasting to gain weight. How on earth does that make any sense?
It seems totally counterintuitive, right? But Shelton argues that the overfed body is often undernourished.
How?
Because constant eating, especially of the wrong foods, can lead to impaired digestion and assimilation. So the body just can't extract the nutrients properly. And this impairment, ironically, can lead to emaciation, to being underweight, despite eating plenty.
Ah, I see.
Fasting, by providing that total physiological rest, rejuvenates the assimilative system, as he puts it. It significantly increases the body's capacity to properly utilize nutrients once feeding resumes.
So patients often gain more weight after the fast, even with less food sometimes, forming better fat tissue and dramatically improving their physical appearance.
That's what he reports, yes. The tissues appear more receptive to nutrients and assimilate and utilize vitamins, minerals, and proteins more readily. It's about optimizing the body's efficiency, not just the quantity of food going in.
That makes sense when you put it that way. It's about efficiency. Okay, let's move to some really practical considerations. Shelton really stresses that fasting is a much more complicated process than even its most ardent advocates imagine. He emphasizes that it is not a process to be left to the mercy of anyone without the necessary knowledge and experience. This sounds like a critical warning.
It absolutely is. A
Yeah.
very serious warning. He insists that prolonged fasts, and even shorter ones for people with chronic conditions like heart disease or severe blood depletion, they should always be controlled and directed by a qualified person. He warns sternly against inexperienced practitioners and what he calls so-called curative schools. People who don't truly understand the deep physiological processes involved. It's not something to dabble in lightly, especially longer fasts.
And the environment matters deeply, too, doesn't it? Shelton says fasting should happen in a calm, serene environment where the air is pure and the water is pure, fresh, and uncontaminated.
Yeah, he argues the best place is actually a hygienic institution run by an experienced person.
Why?
Because realistically, family and friends at home often actively oppose the practice, out of fear or misunderstanding. And this can create, in his words, a grotesque nightmare for the person trying to fast.
I can imagine that.
And for the individual fasting, mental and emotional preparation is crucial. You have to be convinced that fasting will be highly beneficial to get through the inevitable fears and anxieties that can come up.
Okay. What about the duration of a fast? How do you know when to stop? Is it like you set a goal of 10 days or?
No, not really. Shelton's rule is beautifully simple and deeply intuitive. Let developments determine the duration of the fast. The ideal time to break a fast is when hunger returns. And he means real hunger, not that false appetite we talked about.
How do you know?
It's clearly signaled, he says, by a cleansed tongue, good breath, increased salivation for food. It's not a competition, not about hitting a certain number of days. The expert supervising has a specific goal in mind, maybe weight reduction, blood pressure normalization, rejuvenation.
Okay.
And while many fasts might only last a few days, Shelton reports personally conducting fasts up to 90 days, others exceeding 60 or 70.
90 days? That's incredible.
It is. And generally, he found that longer fasts often produce better, more profound results than lots of short ones, though sometimes short series are necessary, due to time or cost constraints for people.
Right. And what about the daily necessities, the techniques Shelton outlines for someone doing a fast? What's critical to do or maybe not do?
Okay, number one is rest. Paramount. Minimize mental, sensory, and physical activity. Conserve every bit of energy for healing and excretion. Physical rest means actual bed rest, mostly.
Oh.
Mental rest means avoiding controversy, worry, just letting the mind quiet down. Sensory rest means a quiet place, avoiding straining the eyes with reading or screens, especially initially.
And warmth is critical too, right? Because fasting decreases resistance to cold.
Absolutely essential.
Sure.
Keeping warm prevents inhibiting elimination and stops the body from using up its reserves faster just to stay warm. He even points out that cold feet can literally prevent sleep during a fast.
Makes sense. What about water?
Consume the purest water available, he says, but only according to the stresses of thirst. Meaning, drink when you're actually thirsty. Don't force down huge quantities just because you read somewhere you should. Listen to your body.
Okay. And bathing.
Short, lukewarm baths.
Yeah.
Purely for cleansing. Avoid anything that expends significant energy.
Sunbathing is also listed. He calls it an essential nutrient factor.
Yes, but carefully. Early morning or late afternoon sun. Start short, maybe 5 minutes per side, and gradually increase.
And this is really important. What about purgatives? Laxatives, enemas.
Shelton strongly advises against them during a fast. He considers them not only useless, they are harmful.
Why harmful?
He argues fasting itself is the best way to increase kidney action if needed. The intestines will rest and cleanse themselves if they need to, and the skin isn't designed as a primary eliminatory organ for deep toxins in that way. Purgatives disrupt the body's own innate, elegant system.
Okay, good to know. What if nausea and vomiting occur during a fast? That sounds really unpleasant, maybe even dangerous.
Well, while certainly unpleasant, Shelton actually describes these crises as definitely beneficial. And he says they're not that common, maybe occurring in a maximum of 15% of cases.
What's happening then?
It's often bile and mucus being expelled. It can indicate an overworked liver finally getting a chance to clear out accumulated backlog. However, he warns, and this is crucial if it's persistent and dehydration becomes a risk, the fast must be discontinued under supervision.
Right, okay. Let's tackle the biggest elephant in the room, the misconception that stops most people even considering this. Does fasting kill? Shelton is incredibly adamant. Fasting does not mean starving.
Exactly. He hammers this point home. Death from lack of food occurs only after total depletion of the body's reserves. That's starvation. And that state occurs far, far beyond the typical duration of a properly supervised fast.
He gives examples of deaths that were wrongly attributed to fasting, doesn't he?
Yes. Like a Mrs. Gloria Lee Bird, who fasted for 66 days, apparently under some strange instructions involving colored lights. It wasn't a hygienically supervised fast, or a 9-year-old boy whose death was attributed to starvation. But Shelton argued there were clear signs suggesting underlying severe diseases were the real cause. These were often cases, he believed, of ignoring common sense, lacking proper supervision, or of facing a disease that had already progressed too far.
Right. He also makes it really clear that fasting cannot work miracles, especially for patients with really serious conditions who might turn to it as a last resort. Its limitations are just the limitations of the organism itself, right?
Exactly. It can only work with what the body has left to work with. Healing is a biological process. Fasting facilitates it. It doesn't magically create it. And this striking warning he gives, in most cases, the danger is not that the patient will starve, but that he will be stuffed to death.
Wow. That powerfully underscores the modern tendency to force feed, even when the body is clearly resisting and trying to heal.
It really does.
So, if fasting isn't a cure in the way we think of it today, like a pill that fixes something, what exactly is its role in healing and health, according to Shelton? This seems like a core idea in hygienics.
It is absolutely core. He says unequivocally, fasting does not cure anything. It's a crucial distinction. Instead, he defines it as a period of physiological rest. And this rest provides the opportunity for the organism to do its own inherent healing work.
Work it just can't do under normal conditions of constant digestion or satiety.
Exactly. Healing, or self-healing, is a biological process. It's inherent in every living organism. It's akin to tissue growth, like histogenesis, or how a bone mends itself. Doctors can set the bone, create conditions, but they cannot produce or imitate the actual biological mending process.
Right, so fasting is an integral and essential part of the overall healing process, a normal condition for making the body's internal healing processes effective. It's like putting that closed for repair sign on the digestive tract, freeing up all that energy for deep internal work.
Beautifully put. And this is particularly evident, he says, in acute illnesses. In conditions like pneumonia, fevers, serious inflammation, the desire for food is absent. That's nature's signal.
Yeah, that's true. You just don't feel like eating.
Right. And force feeding in such conditions, he argues, is not nutritious but harmful. It actually increases pain, can raise temperature further, and drastically reduces the chances of a swift recovery.
Fasting in these cases seems to alleviate discomfort and dramatically shorten the illness duration. He mentioned typhoid fever reducing from, 21 days down to 8, 12, and fewer complications.
That's what he reported from his practice.
Good.
He even shares that compelling case study from 1927. A mother calls a hygienist, desperate, her daughter apparently dying of pneumonia. The advice was simple. Remove all medicine, open the windows for fresh air, give only water when thirsty, no food at all. The daughter recovered, lived a long life. It's a powerful anecdote about trusting the body's innate healing power when given the right conditions.
Wow. What about chronic illnesses?
For chronic conditions, Shelton states that fasting causes a significant acceleration of excretory processes. It helps clear out those toxic accumulations that might have built up over years, contributing to the chronic state. He states that the disappearance of symptoms sometimes after years while fasting is often dramatic. He claims it's been used successfully even in advanced chronic diseases, though often multiple fasts are needed for profound, lasting change.
What about critics who might argue that fasting decreases resistance to disease, makes you weaker?
Shelton directly addresses that. He points to examples like chronic sinusitis finally improving after years of failed surgery and treatments, suggesting fasting actually increases the body's underlying ability to overcome infections by cleansing and strengthening the system overall. He also notes that conditions like pernicious anemia and even diabetes can benefit, but always, always under expert supervision. Cannot stress that enough.
Absolutely. Okay, this brings us to a topic that might surprise many listeners. Children and fasting. Shelton found that children often instinctively know when and for how long to fast. Really?
That was his observation over decades. He saw that many mothers, driven by fear, would try to force-feed their sick children. But he claimed that never in his extensive experience did he see children actually starve themselves when left to their own devices.
He shares an example, right, of a perpetually fasting child who wouldn't eat.
Yes, a child who seemed to refuse food constantly. When the parents, on advice, finally just left the child alone about food, eventually the child naturally asked for food, started eating normally, and apparently became a happy mother and a less unruly boy later in life. He argues that forcing food is actually detrimental to the child's character. It teaches them manipulation, like bribing. It causes overeating habits later, and ironically, leads to a loss of natural appetite regulation.
And he sees childhood illnesses, colds, indigestion, fevers as toxemic crises.
Yes, the body's natural way of dealing with accumulated waste, often from overfeeding or unsuitable food. The body needs rest and elimination, not more food burden. He provocatively states that children's diseases are parents' mistakes, often due to overfeeding, overpampering, and the misuse of medicines and vaccines.
Strong words.
Very. For a sick child, he insists, refusal of food is an instinctive act for healing. Giving food would simply increase discomfort and delay recovery.
So in a really powerful statement that kind of resonates with everything we've discussed, Shelton concludes, the instinctive wisdom of a child is far greater than that of an adult. That's a profound thought on innate biological intelligence, maybe before it gets corrupted by societal habits and fears.
Indeed, it's a powerful reminder of how much we might learn just by observing nature, including our own children's instincts.
Okay, now, perhaps the most crucial part of the entire process, especially after a longer fast, breaking it. Shelton calls this the art of breaking the fast. Why an art?
Because it requires care, precision, and patience. The ideal time, to break it is, of course, when that true hunger returns. But this period needs critical control. Real hunger can be incredibly intense after a long fast.
Right.
This is where institutions really help, managing this carefully to prevent overeating too quickly. Shelton's institution, for example, had a very specific protocol. They started with small, weighed portions of whole oranges, maybe every 2 hours on day 1.
Whole oranges, not juice.
Yes, whole oranges, then gradually introducing other fruits, then vegetables, then other foods over several days. He makes a strong argument for using solid foods like whole oranges, maybe even something like plain popcorn later, over starting with just juices.
That's interesting. Why solid over juice? I would have thought juice would be gentler.
It's about volume and stimulation mainly. Solid foods provide volume. This is crucial for peristalsis, the natural wave-like contractions of the digestive tract. It wakes it up gently. This volume stimulates proper digestive secretions and promotes regular bowel movements much faster. Solid food also provides genuine satiety. Juices, lacking that bulk, can just rush through the system. They can also lead to nutrient loss through oxidation if not consumed immediately. And they can actually delay proper bowel movements because they don't give the colon enough substance to work with.
Fascinating detail.
Yeah. And the most important advice he gives for breaking the fast is simply this. Don't do things too fast. Patience is absolutely paramount.
Okay, so once the fast is properly broken, is it like a magic reset button? Does fasting just keep you healthy permanently without any further effort? Shelton says definitely not.
Absolutely not. He's very clear on this. It's not some miracle for permanent restoration if you just go back to your old ways. Health, for Shelton, is a constant hygienic responsibility. You have the health you deserve without miracles, meaning it's a direct result of your ongoing daily choices.
He's clear that only when the causes of ill health are removed can the body on its own begin to heal. And returning to unhealthy habits, dietary excesses, alcohol, overwork, poor air, lack of rest, will inevitably, again, produce those physical harms. Makes sense.
Totally. Therefore, establishing first-class lifestyle habits after the fast is absolutely essential for sustained health. Shelton's principles are really holistic. It's not just about food. Cultivate balance and courage, get daily exercise, plenty of rest and sleep, maintain cleanliness of body and mind, seek pure air and sun, practice moderate eating, moderate dressing, cultivate a deep interest in life, form a family, avoid all bad habits, avoid sexual excesses, and generally avoid all excesses.
Yeah.
Crucially, don't be one-sided. All these factors matter together.
Yeah.
It's a whole package.
Right. And post-fast nutrition is obviously a huge part of that package. It calls for a fundamental shift towards natural, whole foods. Shelton stresses that fresh, raw fruits and vegetables daily should make up at least 60% of the diet. Why is raw so important to him?
He explains it clearly. Cooking, especially high-heat cooking, destroys vital minerals, many vitamins, crucial enzymes, and delicate amino acids. Refined and processed foods, in his view, are essentially insufficient substances, stripped of their true nutritional value and life force.
Okay.
Protein, minerals, vitamins are critical post-fast, obviously, and he believed they are best sourced naturally, from things like nuts, green leafy vegetables, whole fruits, fats, and sugars. Get them from natural sources like seeds, avocados, sweet fruits, far superior, he argued, to refined oils and sugars.
And moderation, especially right after a fast, is just as key as the quality of the food. It really sounds like the fast is just the beginning of a potentially new, more aware relationship with your body and how you live.
It truly is. It's about establishing a clean foundation and then building upon it with consistent, sustainable, healthy habits, rooted in listening to your body's true needs, not just cravings or habits.
Well, this deep dive into Herbert M. Shelton's work on fasting certainly reveals it as a powerful, deeply natural tool, a tool for the body's own self-healing and rejuvenation. It offers profound physiological rest, enables deep cleansing, providing an opportunity for healing rather than being some kind of external cure itself.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that the body possesses these incredible self-healing capabilities. If we just step back sometimes, provide the right conditions, rest, clean environment, no interference, and trust its inherent wisdom.
And that leaves us with Herbert M. Shelton's enduring question, doesn't it? From his 1928 work, Human Life, Its Philosophies and Laws.
Oh?
He asks simply, how should we live? It's a question that goes so far beyond just diet or fasting.
Absolutely.
While fasting can offer these profound insights into the body's capabilities, true and lasting health, for Shelton, seems to be found in the conscious, balanced integration of all of nature's laws into our daily lives. It's a continuous journey, really, of self-discovery and responsibility. As he wisely said, Life must be lived in its integrity. Don't think that you are an exception to the laws of life. There are no exceptions. Something profound to think about.